Good morning. Did you see how that timing was? Man, that was good. It's like I was in a movie or something. I'm so glad you're here today. My name's Christian. If I have not had the privilege of meeting you yet, I get to be on our teaching team here at Next Level, and I drew the shortest straw to do the mental health series. Or I'm the craziest one here. I'm not sure which. But isn't it sad that when we do a mental health series as a faith family, as a church, so many people go, I've never heard about a church doing this. Isn't that kind of sad? Kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I do believe that if you follow Jesus, like we should be some of the funniest, most joyful, happiest people on earth because we don't die. You know what I mean? I'm going to live forever. That's pretty cool. But it doesn't negate the fact that we still struggle, right? We're still this side of eternity, so there's still a lot of struggle in our life just because there's this system in place, this system of evil that does really and truly want to steal, kill, and destroy everything about your life that God has given you and that is good. And so what we're trying to do in this series is just simply say, hey, it's okay to talk about this stuff. As a matter of fact, it's so okay to talk about this stuff. We're looking at people in the Bible who have mental illnesses. You're like, wait a minute, there's nobody in the Bible who has a mental illness? Really? Well, last week we looked at a guy named Elijah who, right after he got done killing 450 false prophets of Baal, Jezebel sends a little message to him, and he gets scared, runs out into the desert, and contemplates killing himself. Did you know that was in the Bible? It is. And 5 things that we learned about Elijah last week before we dive in. If you missed that, by the way, YouTube, go to our YouTube or go to our webpage and watch that because it's important. But here's what we learned. Elijah, one of the great prophets of all time, goes out into the desert, lays down under a broom tree, and hopes that while he is sleeping, the flood will come and kill him. That's what the story is about. So here's what we learned, that God doesn't shame us when we're in despair. God doesn't come to you and say, you know what, you really should be a big boy, big girl today. He doesn't say, pull yourself up by the bootstraps or put your big girl panties on. Whatever y'all say, I don't know all of your colloquialisms. So yeah, say that and y'all laugh, thanks. But God doesn't meet us in our despair just to say, hey, get over it. That's not what he does. He meets us where we are, and he's empathetic, and he cares. Now, he loves us too much to stay there. And so the second part of what I want to communicate clearly is that as a church, we want your story to be safe, even if your story involves mental illness, but we also want you to know that mental illness isn't the story. It's not all of your story. It's just part of your story and how we kind of work through this together. And honestly, how much God cares about you in these moments of your life, whether it's seasonal or chronic. So the second thing that we found out is that sometimes the results that we get from some things are minimal. Maybe it's a medicine, maybe it's behavioral cognitive health and rehabilitation, maybe whatever. Maybe it's a group of people that you meet with or whatever it is in your life. And you get a little bit, right? You get, just like Elijah got a little bit from the tree, just a little bit of shade, a little bit. And sometimes that's all we're going to get is a little bit. And so we have to trust God with the rest of it, right? That's faith. That's a life of faith. So following after Jesus doesn't mean that you'll never have issues with mental illness or your mental health. And it doesn't mean that it'll be instantaneously gone when you say a good, strong prayer. It's not the way it works, right? The third thing that we learned from Elijah's story is that when God responds to thoughts of hurting yourself or something going wrong or a season of depression, it's not a sermon. He doesn't come and just go, well, why didn't you believe this and believe that and do that? And that's not what God does. In Elijah's story, he provided bread and water. In my story, when I'm feeling down, God provides Krispy Kreme drive-thru. You know what I'm saying? Or, this is very dangerous, they deliver. You don't even have to leave your house. You can just sit there and, yeah, I don't know that. Recently, I've done that. But anyway, so and if you're in a season right now, right, because sometimes sometimes this is seasonal things. This too shall pass. But for some of us, as I shared part of my story last week, is that I will not live a day of my life this side of eternity where I don't struggle with this. Okay? So if you want your preachers perfect who've got all this figured out, you should probably go get a coffee right now. Because that's not me. I'm struggling, right? Just like you, just like other people. And it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way, right? Okay, so great. I've got everybody in a great mood this morning, and you're ready to go. So here's just some facts. And each week we're going to look at a different demographic. Last week we just kind of looked overall at some mental health facts, and that 1 in 5 of you are going to have issues with your mental health if you're not already. So 1 in 5, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's very prominent. But this week we want to look at people who have sudden losses, right? Like someone dies suddenly and you didn't know that, or maybe you lost your job just unexpectedly. They said, oh, downsize and you're gone today. Or maybe your neighbors of 40 years moved away and you're having trouble kind of like trying to understand where that relationship is and how that, whatever it is. But 50% of adults will experience some loss, sudden loss, right? And most of the time it isn't just one. What's the old wives' tale? When somebody dies, especially if they're a celebrity, what's got to happen next? 3. And I don't know who came up with that. Like, what kind of math is that? It's like no. But anyway. But 65% of people, so 50% go, I lost somebody and I'm having a really hard time. This is the hardest day of my life, dealing with this loss. But for those who have had loss due to suicide, 65% of those who've lost someone to suicide, 65% are more likely to end their own life that way. Shocking, right? Surprising. And so that's why it's important. It's important to go to the Bible, this library of books that God has given to us over the years. They've been kind of held together, and here it is. And it's plain as day that some of the giants of faith also had seasons or maybe an entire lifetime of dealing with their mental health. And so this morning, if you have a Bible or if you use a tablet, smartphone, whatever, turn with me to the book of Job. The book of Job. Now, Job is a fascinating book. I have taught through the book of Job probably 24 times in my lifetime. The story behind Job was that when my father was dying in the hospital, he couldn't see, and he was a fairly new believer. If you know my story, I've told it before. And all he wanted me to do was read the book of Job to him while he was dying. And his whole thing was, my dad's whole thing was, he didn't understand this term called grace. Now, how his brain landed on, let's look at the book of Job, I don't know, but it did. And so that started this kind of passion for me to read through the book of Job. And I wrote a little book about it. It's on Amazon, go find it, whatever. But Job is an incredible human being, one, because it's the very first person to write anything in the Bible. Job's the oldest book in the Bible. Job was written way before Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Like, Job had never heard, as we would hear and read about God in his entire life. But what we're about to see is a man who is deeply in love with God. And it's like, well, how did that happen? He didn't hear any good sermons, or he didn't go to Sunday school, or he wasn't in a small group, or how is that, right? There's no written revelation. How does he know these things? But the second thing that I ask myself, and this is the question that you're going to ask yourself, why do bad things happen to good people? And the easy answer to that is there is no good people. You roundabout drivers, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know, if I've got the mic, I'm talking about roundabouts. The ultimate sinful thing. And so as we're going to look through, we're going to read 3 chapters of Job, which is why we got to get started, or you're going to be here till like 1 o'clock. And you're like, no, I won't be. You will be. But we start with a prologue. Now, if you know anything about literary, things and how to read and do stuff like this, a prologue is part of a story that sets up the rest of the story. And the reason why this is super important is because you may be in a season right now where things have just stacked up on you. Because when it rains, in the human experience, this is true. And it is very true when it comes to trauma and hurt and pain and betrayal and loss and grief. It just seems like there's no stopping it. It just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. And so I think it's important for us to framework and understand why bad things happen to good people, honestly. And why is it that mental health is one of those issues that is just, it's so hard to wrap our minds around, our hands around, but God does care about it. And we'll see that through Job's story and through the rest of this series. So Job chapter 1, this prologue, introduces us to this guy named Job. There once was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. Y'all say Uz? He was blameless. Let's just stop right there. He was what? No blame on him for anything. Is that what that is saying? He's blameless. Maybe we just blame him less than we can blame other people. I'm not sure. But I think grammatically, when you're blameless, we can't blame you for anything. Okay, it's good to know. A man of complete integrity. Oh, well, that sums it up. He's blameless and he has complete integrity. Does anyone know someone like this? I see no hands. That is awful. Okay, so no one chose me. That's good. It's very good for you and me. But no, you get what I'm saying. Job is a unique fella. So not only is he blameless, he's full of integrity. He feared God. He stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. That's 10 children. That's a lot. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids to put through school. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. Stay focused, Christian. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 teams of oxen, 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in the entire area. So Job is a good dude whose life is going really well, and he's got lots of stuff. Now, does anybody know somebody like that? Yeah, probably. They're good. They're a good person. They got a lot of stuff. That's cool. They go on these cool vacations. That's awesome. Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them, which, by the way, that when we read that, it's like, oh, well, that's super nice of them, I guess. In that culture, not even sisters went to the brothers' parties. So this was a close-knit family. These people had a good relationship with one another. His kids got along. They liked hanging out. Sometimes these celebrations, once they ended, some after several days, that's a good party. Job's going to need to go do this after 3 days of partying. Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to himself, perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular practice. So what have we learned about Job? What have we learned about Job immediately? He's blameless. He's a good dude. He got a lot of stuff. He's got kids who actually get along with each other, apparently. And he cared so deeply for his family that just in case one of them sinned and did something that would be offensive to God, just in case, I'm going to go do a ritual purification to be sure that my kids remain right with God. This was his regular practice. This man pursued the things of God over all these other things. So, what do we learn about Job? Who is he? Well, blameless, upright, feared God, shunned evil, very wealthy, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels. Like, when you see 3,000 camels, that's like he's got a Ferrari and a Bentley and a Lamborghini all in the garage. Right? Like, this is serious horsepower, camel power, whatever. 7 sons, 3 daughters, spiritually devoted. This doesn't sound like a guy who deserves bad things to happen to him, does it? Verse 6. One day, I don't know what day, by the way. One day. I don't know what day it was. Monday, Tuesday, maybe it was like a thirsty Thursday. I don't know. And when the Bible doesn't tell us things like that, we shouldn't freak out over it. It's okay. Just move on down the road. Nothing to see here. We just know it was one day. One day, the members of the heavenly council, your translation may say court, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. Satan answered the Lord, I've been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Isn't that a fascinating concept? Is today the first time any of you knew that Satan could just walk right back into God's throne room and talk to him? Well, but I was taught God can't be around evil. He's around you. He's around me. Does that make you feel better? We get these weird ideas about who God is and what he can and cannot do and what's going on. But I'm here to tell you that Satan walks into heaven, walks up to God's throne and says, I'm here for court. And I picture him in this really nice suit. He doesn't have red and pitchfork, and I think he's a really good looking dude. He probably looks something like, I don't know, Tom Cruise or somebody. Whatever. I think Keanu Reeves plays in a role anyway. So Satan walks into the heavenly court system, which is that's a fascinating thought, isn't it? By the way, Pastor Clay is really excited because here in a few months, we're actually going to talk about the spirit realm, right? Now, I didn't get voted for that one. I got voted for the mental health one, okay? But whatever. So, yeah. So there's this whole unseen realm happening, right? Sometimes we say the devil's behind every rock. Everything that happens, the devil did it. And then there's other times where we're like, no, this is just all natural phenomenon. And those are juxtapositioned on a continuum, and I need us to get right here in the middle and know that both can be true. That the enemy, this particular world system of evil, does in fact want to hold you and your mental illness at bay and keep you captive and make you alone. And make you feel like you're the only person who's ever felt this way. And shame on you that you have thoughts like that. That's what the accuser does. And it's happening all the time. So, Satan's up. He goes, hey, what have you been doing? I've just been, who, me? Just hanging around. I'm just walking around the earth, checking out things. That should tell us a couple of things. Can Satan be everywhere at once? No, so he's not messing with you, okay? He's in D.C., but he has this whole system. What? That's not, don't do that. Don't egg me on. It's terrible. Miss Emily will have to completely deprogram me this afternoon. I'm saying to you that there is this whole system at work, and we'll talk more about it, but just know that's all we can say right now, because you don't have an hour to listen to this. So then he asked Satan, God did, oh, you've been hanging out down on earth? Well, then you must have noticed this guy named Job. Job's what? He's a good dude. Even God is saying, have you noticed this guy? God is impressed with Job. Not really. There's nothing we can do to impress him. There's also nothing we can do to disappoint him. That's how much he loves us. But I get it. He notices Job. Job's a good dude. He goes, he's the finest man in all the earth. He's blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. And Satan replies to the Lord, yeah, but Job has good reason to. He has good reason to. You've always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You've made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But if you reach out and you take away everything he has, he will curse you to your face. Uh-oh. It's on. So Satan walks back into heaven. That should concern some of us right there. Then he talks to God. It's concerning. Then we find out that God's watching. God knows what's going on. He sees Job. Job's doing a good thing. Like he's living the life he should. And does anybody else kind of get the understanding that Job just got thrown under the bus by God? Because Satan had not seen Job to this point until God points him out and goes, hey, Job, blameless, upright. He's got a Bentley and a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. He's got way more kids than he should. But no. You get what I'm saying. Children are a blessing from the Lord, seriously. Okay? So, what happens? He says, okay, reach out, take away everything he has. There seems like God is still in control, right? Because then what does he say? All right, you may test him. Do whatever you want with the stuff that he has, what he possesses, but don't harm him physically. So see, there was this limitation. There's a limitation to the evil one's plot on our life. So who's this heavenly council that we just talked about? Well, Satan appears before God, challenges Job, and accuses Job of serving God only because he's a kiss-up. In the Hebrew language, that's basically what happens. Oh, well, yeah, he kisses your hind end. That's why you like him. So God permits Satan to test Job's faith. Now, we have to take a little break, okay? Because we can't finish this unless we talk about something. So this Hebrew word for Satan is actually the Hebrew word Satan. See, there was a Satan in the garden, and the word Satan and the word snake are really closely related, okay? So it's also from a verb form, Satan. That's pretty easy, right? Noun, verb. It just means to accuse, to oppose, right? It's accuser. It's not a proper name. Our English translations have put it into a proper name, and it's not. Okay, now watch this. There is, however, a Hebrew article, ha. Ha ha. It's a joke, right? Ha ha. Yeah, ha Satan, which means the accuser. So guess who can be the Satan? It can be your spouse. It can be your neighbor. It can be one of your kids. It can be your boss. Kids are back in school. Guess what? It could be your teacher. It could be you. You could be the Satan in any moment of your day. Does that freak you out? Because Satan isn't a person. The Satan is this accusatory spirit that many in the unseen realm have, those who follow after the prince of darkness. But we as humans have it too. We'll accuse people in a heartbeat of stuff. And in those moments, I just want you to know, when we accuse people, we become the Satan. Like when we tell somebody, well, why don't you just go get help? Or, well, you know, if you take medicine, you're not praying enough. You don't have enough faith to work through this, apparently. Those are the things that are satanic, satanish, accusatory. And that's not where we want to be in this relationship, right? Like, we don't want to be on that side of this with Job and God. And we want to be on the side where God sees the goodness, that this is a good dude. So, go test him. But don't do anything with his life. Now, let's get past that. Here we go. Drop back into verse 13. You ever had a bad day? Are you having one right now? That's what I want to know. You know. Did you have a bad week last week? Did you have a bad day last week? Okay. Did you have you know a bad day doesn't make a bad life. Right? Okay. But we all have them. Sometimes it's rough. But we're about to see the worst day ever. Check this out. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news: Your oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them. When the Sabaeans raided us, they stole all the animals, killed all the farmhands, and I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, this wasn't days later, this wasn't weeks later, this isn't even moments later. While this person is still saying all of your Ferraris and Bentleys, and they're gone, someone stole them. While he's speaking, another messenger arrives with this news. The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. By the way, did you see the fire from who? But God's not doing the testing. Who's doing the testing? The Satan. But you see how our perspective can be, this has got to be from God? They thought so. Why? Nothing wrong with Job. Job's a good dude. God only punishes people when they do bad things. Nope. While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news. 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants, and I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. And while he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. Your sons and your daughters were feasting in the oldest brother's home, and there was a powerful wind. It swept in from the wilderness, and it hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all of your children are dead. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. In a matter of moments, Job's entire life fell apart. Everything that he knew to be true about his life, his possessions, his children, legacy, gone. And this is his response. Job stood up. He tore his robe in grief. He shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshiped. Because sometimes when we're at the bottom of life, rock bottom, we always say, well, there's no place to go but up. No, you can go sideways. And you can just stay at the bottom in your thinking. Call it stinking thinking. You can just keep stinking thinking yourself. And what we say to ourselves and what we talk about and how we understand how God feels about us is very important to our mental health. Because if you think you're crazy, and you think you're the only one, and you think you're the only one that's ever felt this way, then that's what will happen to you. It's why we've got to talk about it. It's why we should not be ashamed to come to church and have a conversation. We shouldn't be, whether it's about mental health or whatever. I don't know about you, but I want to go to people who have hope. And the only people I know that have hope have a Savior who says, you're never going to die. That's pretty cool. So Job says, I came naked from the womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. And in all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Now, this is an interesting phrase because it doesn't say that Job had never sinned, nor that he never sinned in this process. It named specifically things. Did you notice that? Job's second test. We got to move quick now. One day, the members of the heavenly court are meeting again. Apparently, this happens ever so often. Maybe right now, I don't know. But there's this court up in heaven, and people are going before God and accusing us before Him. Did you see what they said to their spouse last week? Did you see what they did in that business deal they made last week? Did you hear them self-talking? They hate themselves. That's what's happening. There's this realm that hates you, hates me, hates human beings in general. By the way, we have an enemy, and a human is never it. Humans are never our enemy. The enemy is our enemy. So the members are meeting again, same thing. Where you come from? Just hanging out. So he says, have you noticed my servant Job? This is a rhetorical question. He's gone and spent a little time with Job, remember? The Lord asked, have you noticed him? Finest man in all the earth, blameless, complete integrity. He fears me, stays away from evil, and he's maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm without cause. That's an interesting phrase, isn't it? Then the Lord asked him. Satan replied to him, skin for skin. I know you took away his stuff. You touch his skin, you take away his health. Skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life. Reach out, take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, do with him as you please, the Lord said, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence and struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. And Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. And his wife said, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. Well, thanks, sweetie. We vilify her, but you understand she lost all of her stuff too, right? She lost all 10 of her kids too, right? And her grief looks different than his. Her grief is anger. Yours? When things don't go well, do you get angry? I do. Anger is like my number one emotion. You're like, surely not you. Yeah, it is. And so when things happen like this, you kind of default to whatever your primary settings are. When she's angry, Job is brokenhearted. And Satan's not done. Job replies, you talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? So in all this, Job never said anything wrong. When 3 of Job's friends heard of the tragedy that he had suffered, they got together, they traveled from their homes to comfort and console him. We all need somebody, right? Their names were Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. And when they saw Job from a distance, they scarcely recognized him. Wailing loudly, they tore their robes and threw dust in the air over their heads to show their grief. They were just trying to connect with Job where he was at. We don't always need to try and solve someone's problems. Sometimes we just need to sit with them. Watch what his friends do. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights, and no one said a word to Job, for they saw the suffering was too great for words. His friends sat with him and didn't say a word for 7 days, which, by the way, when we start reading the rest of Job, you understand why it was better for them to just be quiet. Because then they become the Satan. They begin to accuse Job of all these things he must be doing for this kind of calamity. Very causationist. If I'm good, God does good stuff. If I'm bad, God will give me bad stuff. And that's not how it works. It's not. And so Job finally makes a speech, and then we're done. He says, let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived. Let that day be turned to darkness. Let it be lost, even to God. You know what he's saying, right? This world is better without him. Which, by the way, is clinically suicidal ideology. Job's had the worst day ever. Do you blame him? Kids are gone, stuff's gone, house is gone, everything's gone. And now his health is gone. He's dying. Those closest to him are just sitting around not saying anything, which could be good. And then there's somebody very close to him going, why don't you just go ahead and get this over with? Just curse God, die, just go. Because that's what I feel like. And so when we think about this, when we think about Job being in this place, there's just some kind of things after this worst day ever. We begin to find out that mental health doesn't discriminate against anyone. You can be older, you can be younger, you can be very good looking, you can be less than good looking. You can be very tall, very short, you can be very fit, you can be very unhealthy, you can be very white, you can be very black, you can be very, very intelligent, you can be not as intelligent, you could be running a Fortune 500 company, you could be impoverished. You might be a girl, you might be a boy. You may have education, you may not have education. You may have had a great home life growing up, you may have had a terrible home life growing up. Mental health and mental illness issues do not discriminate. So when we look at people, you can't eyeball and go, yep, that looks like somebody who's probably got some mental health issues. I mean, sometimes. Right? I mean, See, I got to make you guys laugh. When we get too serious, it makes me nervous. Don't do that. But it doesn't discriminate. What I'm telling you is anybody in here, you seem like some fine folk. Like I'm just looking out there and you're smiling, you're looking all right. You look, well, that one person's asleep, but we're not going to point them out. And then, but can I just tell you that I know this for a fact, that I don't know how your life is going, whether it's good or whether it's bad, but there may be a season where you need to remember this, that it's okay to not be okay. And it's not necessarily that you've done something wrong. It's the system, it's the world, it's the accuser. And for whatever reason, he does have some authority and power to make life miserable for us. It's why we should fight every day. It's why we fight. It's why we get up. My favorite verse in the Bible says, and David got up. He got up. Just get up. It could be anybody, so don't try to profile folks. God's never in an emergency session. We got the council, this tribunal going on up here. That's wild to me. But one thing I know that's not happening in heaven is that God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit aren't in a huddle going, hey, come here. One night, February of 2008, hey, I just didn't think Christian was going to get to this point. I didn't see this coming, did you? I mean, I thought he was doing okay. He just wrote a book. He's got beautiful 2 children, beautiful wife, and church, and he's traveling all over the place telling people about Jesus, and this is... Why does he not want to wake up tomorrow morning? I don't understand. That's not happening in heaven. It's not. And you should take comfort in that. You must take comfort in that. Often our circumstances pile up at once, right? It seems like one thing after another. Yes, that's life this side of eternity. That's life this side of Jesus' kingdom being fulfilled. But it doesn't mean we're done. It doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean, man, I'm no good. It just means get up. But another thing happened today, Christian. Just get up. But tomorrow, whoa, let tomorrow worry about itself. I can't worry about tomorrow. I got enough stuff to worry about today. They pile up, though. Some people close to us are going to understand. Some will not. Those 3 friends, they sat for 7 days. They loved it. Wife comes out, curse God and die. There's going to be people on both sides, so don't get so discouraged or so encouraged either way. Just know, some people are not going to understand your struggle, and you have to be okay with that. There are plenty of us that do understand your struggle. We can talk about it. That's why it's important for us to talk about it. Finally, if you don't know someone's situation, just presence is fine, advice not needed. Well, this one time when I was experiencing, no, they don't want to hear that. Just sit there like Job's friends. Don't say a word. Literally, just sit there. Christian, that feels kind of awkward. Well, so does saying something stupid. You just don't find out about it until much later. Listen, if you hear anything today, here's my prayer. It's okay to not be okay. When life's circumstances pile up on us, I get it. It's going to be difficult. But I want you to understand, even though there's this whole world system that's against us, and there are those who accuse us and want our lives to be terrible, God doesn't. And he doesn't abandon us, and he doesn't come to give us this big, huge sermon every time we mess up something. What he wants is for you to love him and he to love you, and you to have a relationship where you can talk about everything, where you can enjoy everything, and where you can also go to him and go, this really sucks. There's a whole book in the Bible about complaining. It's called Lamentations. God knows this life is going to be difficult. He understands what's happening. Until his son comes back and makes all things new, mental health is going to be an issue for us. And what we need to understand is that God's not far from that. He's in it with us. No matter what happens, no matter what piles on you, he's there for us. Let's just pray for a second. The band's going to come, and I'm just going to sing this one last song. Jesus, thank you so much that we're not alone. And thank you that your word speaks into mental health. Like, it's evident. People for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years have struggled, just like we struggle sometimes. And so we take heart in that, Lord, that you're not far from us, that the accuser and the enemy can only go so far without your permission, and that our lives are noticed by you. You're watching, you know. And there's nothing that we can do today that will make you love us anymore, and nothing we can do today to make you love us any less. And so help us. Help us be open about our struggles in a safe place like this. And let your Holy Spirit teach us and remind us in those troubled seasons of how much you love us and how much purpose we have in this world. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.